Hello, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I've been so lucky to speak with so many great marketers, entrepreneurs, and business leaders on this show, especially some of the legends. And if we wanted to learn from any one company, the one that most companies would love to emulate is Apple. And if you know anything about the history and rise of Apple, then you'll know the story of today's special guest. Guy Kawasaki is the chief evangelist of Canva, a brand ambassador for Mercedes Benz, an executive fellow of the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley, the former chief evangelist of Apple, a trustee of the Wikimedia Foundation, and the author of 15 books, including some of the most highly respected in business, including The Art of the Start 2.0, The Art of Social Media, Enchantment, and Wise Guy. And on this episode, we'll discuss his thoughts on marketing, business, life, and even a little bit about surfing and where to catch the right break at a beach near you. So let's tune in to the legendary Guy Kawasaki with a soon to be legendary shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Guy, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. For the two people in the world who don't know you, can you give us a quick overview of your background and career to date?
Sure. I am currently the chief evangelist of a company called Canva out of Sydney,
Yeah.
Australia. I'm also a Mercedes Benz brand ambassador and an executive fellow at the Haas School of Business of UC Berkeley. Prior to this, I've written about 15 books. I've been a writer and a speaker for a while, therefore, and I used to be the chief evangelist of Apple. And before that, I was the software evangelist of Apple. So it's Apple. I spent a year advising Motorola. So Apple, Motorola, Canva. That's about it.
Yeah, small names nobody has ever heard of, I know. So
Yeah, a
what
little bit of brand awareness.
well,
Yeah.
so what inspired you to dust off the chief evangelist title and join a company out of Australia?
Canva.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started my career at Apple evangelizing Macintosh. And evangelism means bringing the good news. So I brought the good news of Macintosh, how Macintosh would make people more creative and productive.
Hmm.
And fast forward from 1983 to, you know, 2013, and I come across, or it came across me also, a product called Canva. And where Macintosh made people more creative and productive, I think Canva makes everybody into a graphic
Yeah.
designer. So it's democratized graphic design. So it's also very good news.
Yeah, well, does it make you a people like me a better bad, who've been a bad creative designer? Does it make us a better graphic designer? I've been doing graphic
I
design for years and it's still
I listen. I don't know how quote bad you really
yeah.
are, but it can make anybody a good graphic
There you
designer.
go.
How's that?
That works. Well, so with the title of evangel- chief,
Evangelist.
chief evangelist, that would seem to give you the ability, since you live in California, to be able to marry somebody with that title. That's something I could call the governor and try to get the chief evangelist. That just seems like a preacher title. But to be serious,
Well,
we talk a little bit about marketing, which is a
well,
big part
first,
of my focus. Go ahead.
first, don't confuse evangelistic with evangelical.
Exactly.
Two
So
are very, very
very, very
different.
different. So with marketing though, where do you think marketers and business leaders today, at a high level, are succeeding, and where are they failing?
I'd say they're succeeding at throwing money at the problem, and they're
Yeah,
failing at getting value out of the
couldn't
money.
agree more.
How's that?
Yeah, I've worked with some of them
Yeah.
directly and seen it.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of it is just pure amazing, right? That like I can't for the life of me figure out some of the things that people do, and at some level, I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, give people valuable information, give them entertainment, give them something like that, and well, but I think the key to all great marketing and certainly evangelism is to have a great product. If you have a great product, everything else is easy.
Couldn't agree
Product
more.
sucks, everything is hard.
Lipstick on a pig. So
Lipstick on
only
a
thing
pig.
Sarah Palin said that's quotable. So
Lipstick on a pig and 2 pounds of garbage in a 1 pound bag.
there you go. So I've watched some of your own TEDx talks, and would
Uh-huh.
love for you to elaborate on why you think it's really more important to execute than innovate. And maybe that's not the perfect way of
Oh,
saying it, but I
it's
really,
close
really
enough.
admire You're one of the very few people that I've ever heard speaking about this. And for somebody who's worked in campaign operations, for example, that's just, such an important piece, and it's an important piece for all business leaders today. It
Yeah.
seems so often that most of the advice is around innovation, but why is that your focus? Why do you believe that to be true?
It's my focus because I'm getting old and I figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you start off in your career, you think, oh, it's the great idea. Let's have a graphical user interface, or let's allow people to create graphics online, or
Hmm.
let's have an electric car. And they think, oh yes, I got the idea, electric car, graphical user interface computer, and the rest is easy. The brilliance is the idea. And my observation as I got older and older is, man, good ideas are easy. I could tell you good ideas all day
Hmm.
long. The hard part is making the idea work. And wow, that is the hard part.
Well, what do you feel has been your own, most important success in your own career in business or marketing day? What's sort of the pinnacle that you've set that you think you've done the
Well,
best at?
I've been bookended on the extremes of my career, starting with Macintosh. I'm living proof that if you do one thing fairly right, i.e., evangelize Macintosh,
Hmm.
you can coast for about 30 or 40 years on your reputation. So that's at one end. At the other end, my last job is Canva. And we sign up tens of thousands of new people every day for Canva. And on any given day, our customers create about 3 million graphics. So 3 million graphics a day create on Canva.
Yeah, sounds like it's reinvigorated you in a pretty substantial way. So,
Ah,
that same end then, what do you
mhm.
think has been your biggest failure in your career? Something that you've learned the most from? Either not necessarily failure, but
Well,
just mistake.
yeah, no. But well, you could make the case that Macintosh was a failure
Yeah.
because we thought Macintosh would achieve 90% market share,
Yeah.
right? So we were only off by 85%.
Yeah.
So, it never came to dominate the way Windows came to dominate. So you could say that's a failure.
Fair enough. So when you were at Apple though,
Hmm.
when did you know that you were onto something, at least from having a successful brand? What was that big aha moment when things finally did come around?
Well, uh, the first aha moment was when I first saw Macintosh because I was an Apple II user, so I was using AppleWorks
Hmm.
and Quick File and those kind of things, and I loved word processing and database and spreadsheet. What concepts, right? And then I saw Mac Paint and Mac Write with integrated graphics and WYSIWYG, and oh my God, the
Hmm.
scales were removed from my eyes. The angels started singing, the clouds parted,
Hmm.
and so, well, but that meant that I loved it.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that anybody else loved it, other than all of us drinking the Kool-Aid. So, one of them was Pete Marwick. I write about the Pete Marwick example in my book, and it's all about getting the second, third, fourth follower. The first and second, first being yourself, the second is exponentially harder, and the third and the fourth are still hard, and then at some point you tip and it gets easy, right?
Hmm.
But boy, I tell you, in the first, I think, quarter or so, we sold a quarter million Macs, and we were just celebrating. And then we hit the wall because I think we exhausted the supply of early adopters. So
Yeah.
that was a rude awakening.
Well, what's you've written all the different types of advice you've gotten from Steve
Mhm.
Jobs. What's the single most important piece of advice that you got from him, or thing that you learned the most from him?
I think the most important advice, not necessarily that he, pulled me aside and told me this, but what I learned was that your current customers can't tell you how to create a revolution. And in Apple's case, they said, "Oh, they want a better, faster, cheaper Apple II." Nobody said to build a Macintosh,
Right.
and I pretty much know that no Macintosh owner told Apple to build an iPod, iPad, or iPhone. They want bigger, faster, cheaper
Hmm.
Macintosh. And now people are telling Apple to build bigger, faster, cheaper iPhones. And hopefully, Apple is making something that we're not describing.
And maybe for the rest of us, something under $1,000 for a change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, So that's one element, but I think a second element is, okay, so you can stuff faster and better chips into the same design.
Hmm.
Clearly you can do that.
Hmm.
Hallelujah. But, like, I don't see people standing in line for new iPhones anymore. I mean,
No, no, no,
um,
you sure don't. Well,
yeah.
on another note, what's the single most important thing that you learned from another brilliant guy, Steve Wozniak?
Wozniak is just the purest form of engineering.
Yeah,
So, I learned that, yeah, it's good to be a nerd.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. I was afraid you might have referenced how learning how to dance from him, like he
Yeah.
didn't do on Dancing with the Stars. So, so
Yeah,
you've,
but I give him credit. He went
yeah,
on
he
that,
was out there, put himself out
right?
there, and had a
Yep.
good time. So, well, so you've written 15 books. It may
Yep.
surprise you to know, Guy, that the cutoff to get on this show is 16, but I made an exception for you this one time. But
I got it on the minority admissions
it's,
program.
but seriously, you didn't start out with that first book and think that you were going to publish another book every year. What sort of inspired you from that first one to feel the need to get something out, constantly?
14 more advances.
Yeah. That's not it. That's not true at
Ah,
all. I've read enough of your teachings to know it hadn't
I,
been
you know,
about the
I,
money.
I try to write a book when I have something to say. What a
Yeah.
concept, huh? That's why. That's why there are 2 or 3 years between them.
Well, Wise Guy is a fantastic book. It is one of my
Thank
favorite, and it's what I had a chance. I could have reached out to you before. Could have reached out to you before this one was published. But
you.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's different from the other books. What was the
Yep.
inspiration for it? I know it's not your life story. It's a lot of different lessons. But
Yeah.
what was the inspiration for it?
Um. I don't know. Maybe my kids. I'm 64 years old. Like I'm not getting any younger. So I figure I had to hit this sweet spot between acquiring the knowledge and forgetting the
Yeah.
knowledge. So if I wait any longer, I'm going to forget it. And if I written it earlier, I didn't have it yet. So this is it. I have to like hit the window.
Well, your postpartum at the end of it is a whole speech on its own. I mean, you could it's funny. It's you've got so many great lessons in there, but there's so many things. I just saw your most recent TEDx talk, and it's really covering a lot of things that are in the postpartum that are fantastic lessons. So if anybody reads through the book, they cannot miss that part. You know,
Okay, thank you.
of course. So, other than your most recent book, Wise Guy, what's been your most favorite book? Looking back on what the end result was that you were proudest of once you got it on paper.
Oh, by far the Art of the Start 2.0,
Yeah.
because the Art of the Start I think has been more or less become the de facto standard for business schools and
Yeah.
colleges to teach how to start a company. Now, I think probably more people have read the Lean Startup, but the Art of the Start I think is a broader book in that the Lean Startup tends to focus on product development, getting out the MVP and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But I talk about everything, fundraising, recruiting, social media, the whole shooting match. So if there is one book you should read of mine, and I would argue maybe of anybody's, if you're going to start a company, it's The Art of the Start 2.0.
Well, and that's the one too. I believe you've got accolades on that particular book from
Mm-hmm.
Mark Cuban
Yeah.
and Ariana Huffington. I mean, just to name a few small names, a couple of people have heard of. And then on other books, you've got Richard Branson, you've got Steve Wozniak giving you reference. It's something to when you hear those names give accolades to your books, it's amazing. So yeah, if you look back though, for somebody that's written so many books,
Mhm.
especially about business and technology, marketing and entrepreneurship, why hindsights? What inspired you to write that one? I think it's
Oh,
fascinating that you wrote
oh,
such a personal book about you and your wife at a
yep,
time when you were considering divorce. I mean, it was
yep.
just after a book about Google and just before one about Macintosh. To throw that one in the mix, it would almost be almost like a trick question. Which book was
Yeah.
was about
Well, it
life?
was in that case I wrote the book that I wish I could have read.
Yeah,
So, what did people who very successful or unsuccessful or whatever, what did knowledgeable people have to say about their hindsights in life? And yeah, Studs Terkel or Studs Terkel, I don't know how you exactly pronounce his name, but he used to go and interview people, about their lessons and wisdom and all
Hmm.
that. Um, and he did it more of a description of what they do, as opposed to what they thought. And so I wanted to go a step further and broader and more modern. I interviewed people in tech that he really didn't. And so I wanted a book of people's hindsight. So it didn't exist. So I wrote it.
Well, I know you from a lot of your books. I've seen a lot of your speeches online. But at this point, what do you sort of get more to inspire you to become a better thought leader, if you will? Is it
Yeah.
the writing?
Well,
Is it speaking?
uh, you know, first of all, I don't consider myself a thought leader. Um, you may consider me a thought leader, which is flattering, but I don't, because I think when you start putting on the thought leader hat,
Yeah.
you like start taking your shit too
No,
serious.
I agree. No, but I've
I mean,
learned to eat some humble pie on that. I
yeah,
never, anybody that has known me may have seen me
yeah,
try to think that I'm the smartest guy in the room, and I knew I was never that. And one of the people that was on my podcast reminded
yeah,
me, and she said it so well because I used to talk about the thought leaders and marketing leaders. She said she was a subject matter learner, and I think that's
yeah,
just
yeah,
such a
yeah, yeah.
brilliant phrase because that's where I've sort of applied myself in
Yeah.
anything I do.
So, as a word of caution, I think that anybody who comes up to you and proclaims that they're a guru or a visionary or a thought
Right.
leader, they're full of shit. I
Yep.
mean, you know, do you think Steve Jobs spent one iota of time thinking about, how do I position myself
Yeah.
as a thought leader?
Right.
Well, I could invent a computer. I could change the colors of the case. I could
Yeah.
make a device to listen to music, and then I can be a thought leader. I mean, I refuse to believe that Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, or Elon Musk spend any time at all thinking about positioning themselves as a thought leader and writing white papers.
Exactly. Well, and I think it always shows you work for Canva now, and nobody's buying Canva because Kawasaki's name on it. Nobody's buying a Tesla because Elon Musk is next to it. I mean, they're buying it
Yeah,
because it's a great car. The same way they're buying your product or service because it's a great product or service. Nobody,
yeah.
influence has got merits, but it's not everything. So but what do you get from your own inspiration? What inspires you more? Is it speaking engagements and in meeting different
Uh,
people today, or is it sitting down
no,
behind a desk and
you know
writing?
what? I have 4 kids, and just being around for them inspires me. In a
Yeah,
perfect
thank
world,
you.
I'd never get on an airplane. Um, I just had another interview, and the guy said, so what? How would you define success? And I said,
Oh
listen,
God.
success for me is I can say no anytime I want.
Yeah.
That would be success.
Yeah. So who are the thought leaders in business now that you read about? I mean, who are the ones that inspire you, or do you even really focus on, do you read what a Seth Godin or a Rand Fishkin or Ann Hanley or any of those type of people?
Uh,
Do you read their books, or do you really focus on other things that aren't
it's
about
okay.
marketing and
So
business?
you have to take this in the right way. It's not that I don't read them because I don't think they have valuable things to say. I don't read them because, well, I just love, of all people, you might be able to relate to this. All right. So by the time you're done with your kids and your own work, and then I love to surf, man, there's not a lot of time left in the
No,
day. So,
agreed. Yeah, yeah,
so
and
and and when I do read, I read to escape, right? So
yeah,
so like my favorite author, believe it or not, is Lee Child. And my favorite character is Jack Reacher.
yeah,
And Jack Reacher is not going to teach you how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. Now, I know
right.
Ann Handley can teach me that,
Yeah,
but I just love to read mysteries and thrillers.
No, that's a fair
So
point. They would say the same thing though. I mean, I've posed that question to a lot of them,
yeah,
and a lot of them don't read other. I mean, they've read other marketers. They of
yeah,
course read, but I mean, for me, I'm sitting down reading, either The Old Man and the Sea and some Hemingway, or Shakespeare, or To Kill a Mockingbird. What?
you're a more intellectual person than I am. I like Jack Reacher,
No,
but
I love those kind of stories too. I
but
just
can I tell you
yeah,
another uh, perspective on this that may be even closer to the truth for all of us, which is, let's say you read another business author's book, okay, and let's say it's worse than your book, so then you wasted your time.
yeah,
Let's say it's better, okay, then you get depressed. So there's no upside. You're either going to be depressed or you wasted your time. So why read them?
sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, so I do remember in reading another one of your fantastic books, The Art of Social Media,
Yeah.
which I think it is such a good, succinct book on,
Thank you.
quick. It's just like quick wins and quick things to do in social media that are just simple and to the point. But I read that at the first that 24 was your favorite TV show.
Yeah.
So you said Jack Reacher, and that reminded me of, slightly of Jack Bauer. But why that show? That was also one of my favorites of all time. Why Jack
I,
Bauer in 24?
I don't know, because, Jack Bauer was the antithesis of due process.
Yeah, due
How's
process,
that?
judge and jury himself. Well, and if you like content marketing and storytelling, boy, that one left you hanging on each week for another part of the
And
story. So
I also loved him in Designated Survivor.
yeah, and they canceled it early, so they
I
they,
know,
they
I
kind of
know.
ran out. They kind of ran out of content after about the first 5 minutes too. You know, you can only carry a conspiracy so long.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so then talk about you started surfing. Why surfing? Of all the things you could take up, at your age,
Well,
why did you take up surfing?
I took up hockey at 48 and surfing at 62. And it's because my sons took up hockey and my daughter took up surfing.
Oh, okay.
It was really to share experiences with them, and then come to find out I loved hockey and
Yeah,
surfing
I
as
bet.
much as they did, if not more. So, whereas most parents make their kids take up what they're into, I did the reverse.
Hmm.
I took up what they're into. And that has served me very well because, I didn't have to force them into liking surfing because they were already surfing.
Did she encourage you to take up surfing, or did she say, "Dad, just get a paddleboard and or a
Well,
kayak
it's
or"?
funny you should say that because I did have a paddleboard and she thought I was a total kook to do paddleboarding.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
I can't say that she's out there encouraging me. I don't think that she likes when she and I are on the same break
Yeah,
because I have a rule that since I paid for the board, I can drop in on you.
yeah.
So,
Well, you travel all over the world. Where's been your favorite place to surf? I mean, was it?
okay, so that's another great, this is another piece of wisdom that you might get from my book, which is people, let's say you live in Hawaii or, wherever, Santa Cruz, you're at a place. I think that people spend tons of money and tons of time and tons of effort trying to find a better surf spot. And
Yeah,
really, it's probably 30 minutes from your house.
yeah. Well,
And in my case, it's 1 block from my house.
yeah,
1 block from my house, there are 4 or 5 breaks that go from advanced to total kook. And believe me, I'm at the total kook end. And so, you know, why am I flying to Bali when I can walk 1 block? I mean,
yeah. No kidding. Well, but have you done that yet, where you've gone to give a speech in Bali or somewhere else
yeah.
and decided to take your surfboard out and go
Um,
catch some waves elsewhere?
I, well, traveling, well, I'm a longboarder, right? So,
Yeah.
you don't exactly carry on a 10-foot board.
No.
So when I go to Hawaii, because I'm from Hawaii, I take a board. But generally speaking, I don't take a board. I've gone to Australia and tried to surf, but then, I went to Australia the only week that there wasn't any surfing. So
Wow.
I once went surfing for 2 days in a row in Goa, in India. But, I mean, again, like I live in Santa Cruz, and 1 block from my house, 5 great breaks.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
I've kind of cooled it on trying to find the perfect wave.
Well, here's an obvious transition before we get close to close. It's to
Yeah.
talk a little politics, and
Yeah. Oh
so
God.
no, I'm this is a very easy version of that. So I, like a
Okay.
lot of people, follow a lot of others on Twitter, including you, and
Yep.
I follow you, and I even follow Donald Trump just to see what I can be entertained with, and I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of your takes on politics today, and I'm not going to make this one political, but
I don't care.
one of my favorite funny parts of Wise Guy that you talk about was helping Hillary Clinton in 2016. And if you would kind of recap that story, she's
Yeah.
somebody that I knew as a kid as well, and uh, grew up not that far from her
Oh yeah.
when her husband was sort of getting, moving up in the world. But
Yeah.
tell that story quickly, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, about.
So the story is that, I went to one of her speeches. I'd never seen her speak. I was totally impressed with her.
Yeah.
And then there was a line to take a picture with her. It's a long line. There are 500 people at the thing. And so you get up to her, and you have about 10 seconds, which I understand because you're trying to move 500 people through, and 500 people times 10 seconds is 5,000 seconds, and it adds up. But you could not use your own phone. So you had to have the Clinton staff photographer do it. Now they knew who I was, so somehow I got the picture. But I kept wondering, well, the other 499 people, how did they get that picture to them so they could share it on social media? And there's like 2 or 3 millennials just standing there doing nothing from her staff. So why can't you just hand the phone to them? And there's only two kinds of phones, right?
Hmm.
Android and iPhone. It's not like they have to learn 30 user interfaces. So just hand the phone to them, and the staff photographer can still take the picture, and then you can have a picture on your phone which you can instantly share. But no, you had to use their staff photographer. And then getting to this event, I started to know people in the Silicon Valley campaign, and I said, listen, I know a lot about social media. If you
Hmm.
want any kind of help with social media, I'll fly to New York. I'll go to campaign headquarters. I'll do whatever you want. I want to
Yeah.
see her get elected, right? And they check with the campaign headquarters and say, no, we got this covered. Okay,
Oh,
all
yeah.
right. I tried. I
Yeah.
mean, now to her defense, I'm sure she never even heard about this, offer. And I'm sure that every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Jane, and Sue was saying, yeah, I really know what I'm doing. I'd like to help you. So what? At some point, you have to say, I can't take all these offers of help. But
No
man,
kidding.
seems to me that I should have risen above the noise.
No
But who
kidding.
knows?
Well, but just be glad you didn't offer to help her with email.
Yeah. I would have told her just use Gmail. It would
Yeah,
have been
really,
solved.
no kidding. so, so
Use WhatsApp. That's fine.
well, yeah. So when you look back now at your own career, you get asked a lot about Steve Jobs. You get
Hmm.
asked about other people that you've dealt with and worked with over the years. What do you think people are going to be saying about you and the things that, I mean, you've achieved that status now. I mean, you are a
I'm no
whether
Steve
you want to,
Jobs.
well, no, but you may, well, look, you are a very smart entrepreneur. You have invested with a lot of companies that have done well. You've helped Steve Jobs succeed at Apple as well. You've done a lot. But what do you think the advice that people are going to say? You've given a lot of commencement speeches. What do you think that
Yeah.
people are going to remember after learning from you?
Uh, I, in a perfect world, I would like them to say, well, he empowered a lot of people with his writing, his
Yeah.
speaking, his commencement address, his investment, his advising. He empowered a lot of people. So that would be in a perfect world. Slightly less perfect world, just he was a nice guy with a wicked sense of humor. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and if you can get your kids to remember that with saying that as well, that's what we're all
Yeah,
striving for. So,
that's harder.
you're out surfing a lot and you're just a few miles from the beach. I'm compelled to ask, what is your favorite kind of shark and why? And I only ask that because the name of the show is A Shark's Perspective.
I don't know. Shark sushi. I don't.
Sharks.
I, I've never met a shark
have you
up
have you
close
run into
yet.
many out on the surf?
Never, never,
Never.
never. No, I mean the most dangerous part about surfing is driving to the water.
That's true. Well, Guy, it is that special time in the show. Are you ready for the five most
Yes.
interesting, important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Fire away.
All right, here we go. Types of apples: Fuji or Macintosh Red, and I had to throw in Macintosh Red even though it's spelled differently.
Yeah. Fuji for sure.
All right. Stanford, your alma mater, or UC Berkeley, where you've got that center of excellence.
Stanford.
Control C or Command C, because the Macintosh people had to be a little bit different.
I would. Can I offer another answer?
You can.
How about Command Z, which is undo?
Yeah, there you go. So, number 4, Honolulu or Silicon Valley?
Honolulu.
Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread with butter and honey.
Good man. So, Guy, where can people find out more about you? Where do you want them to follow you and your website, buy the book, and so on?
If you want to see what I'm into, in a business and more serious sense, it's probably my LinkedIn feed, which is just Guy Kawasaki. A little bit of warning, I'm very, very political there and very liberal. If you want to see the more funny personal side, my personal interest, then Instagram.
Good.
And of course, the book is on Amazon and everywhere. Yeah. If you really want insights into my psyche, read the book.
It's a great book. Well, Guy, again, it's been an honor, and thank you again for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
I'm grateful for this opportunity. All right, you take care, Shark.
Thank you.
Bye.
So there was my conversation with Guy Kawasaki, the Chief Evangelist of Canva, a brand ambassador for Mercedes-Benz, an executive fellow of the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley, the former Chief Evangelist of Apple, a trustee of the Wikimedia Foundation, and the author of 15 books, including some of the most highly respected in business, including The Art of the Start 2.0, The Art of Social Media, Enchantment, and Wise Guy. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, I could not agree more with Guy when he talks about execution over innovation. So little people focus on that aspect of business. As he says, the fact is that good ideas are easy. The hard part is making the idea work. This is so very true with so many people who lack the ability to complete tasks, projects, etc. You see this a lot with inventors too. Think about the time when you thought you had a great idea for a product or service, but it was fleeting. Then the next thing you know, someone else has completed that product or service and is advertising it. So which is better, the person who came up with a brilliant idea or the one who brilliantly executes it? And I don't think that he, nor am I, ever advocating for anyone to stop coming up with great new ideas and be as creative as possible. Just make sure that your idea isn't just an idea that goes nowhere, but in your thoughts. If Steve Jobs had come up with an idea but failed to execute upon it, then we wouldn't have Apple. Second, some of the best advice he ever received from Steve Jobs was this: your current customers can't tell you how to create a revolution. Such a brilliant point. Third, I did like his point about thought leadership and that don't take yourself too seriously. I made mention that even I have needed to eat some humble pie from time to time. We all do. His point is that you should never proclaim yourself a guru. He went on to explain that people like Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, and Elon Musk weren't trying to be thought leaders and positioning themselves to be of such. They were quite simply just being brilliant in how they did something, and that's what shone through to the world. So focus on that more than trying to show the world your expertise. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you so much for your time today and letting me talk to you about another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. So whether you Command Z or Control Z, eat an apple a day, be brilliant, and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.